All right. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to our library information session today. I am Sharon Duffy. I am the Research Services Librarian, and I'm here with Rowan Mary, our Public Services Librarian. We are both two of the systematic review librarians here at LSU Health, and we are going to give our presentation today on Covidence for systematic reviews, the essentials. So this is going to be an introductory basic overview of Covidence that we're going to share with you today. All right, so here's an overview of what we're going to cover. First, I'm going to talk about what Covidence is. Hopefully you have some familiarity with it if you are attending this session, but if not, you're going to learn all about it. I'm going to go through the process of setting up a review, all the settings that are available to you. Rowan is going to cover the steps of performing a review and how Covidence walks you through all of those steps and makes the process very simple. And then we'll cover the things that you can get out of Covidence once you've done all of your work. And then we'll cover some best tips and practices and tips for success, both with Covidence and with systematic reviews in general. And then share some resources from Covidence that are very useful as you learn how to use the tool. All right, so what is Covidence? All right, so Covidence is a cloud-based software. So there's nothing to download. It is all in the cloud. It's very simple, easy to use. And it is a product that is designed and created to streamline and organize the process of completing a literature review project. It walks you through the steps, it gets you started, it helps you get to the end of your getting the information out of the articles that fit your criteria. You can use it for a wide range of literature review projects, from systematic to scoping to just another type of literature review. Maybe you're just doing a narrative review, but you want a way to organize your citations and identify the ones that are going to be most relevant. You can also use it for that. It is a good place to gather your full text PDFs in one location. If you've done a literature review project, you know that's sort of a separate beast to manage. So Covidence has that kind of built into it. And then if you're doing a systematic or scoping review, it will generate that Prisma flow diagram that you will need to show your work, show your process when you go to publish and present your results. All right, so this is a good overview of the systematic review process and where Covidence fits in. So when you're starting a project, you're going to have a research question. You'll consult with a librarian. We have 5 librarians on staff who are certified with systematic review methodology. So we are available to help you define that question, identify if there were other reviews already published in the literature on your project. So you definitely want to start with a research question and a librarian. Then once you finalize your question and nail down the search, that will be run in multiple databases. So you'll run it in PubMed, you'll run it in CINAHL, Embase, Scopus, Web of Science, maybe Google Scholar, a whole bunch of different places that you will find citations. Now you're ready to use Covidence. So it will walk you through the title and abstract screening phase, then move on to the full text screening, and then also the data extraction, which is actually the most time-consuming part of a review project, because that's really where you get into the details. Quality assessment, if you're completing that step, and then you're kind of done with Covidence. Then you will show you how to get your results out of that, and then you'll perform your analysis and your synthesis and everything else offline and outside of Covidence. So that's kind of where it fits into the process. All right, so that leads into what Covidence is not. It is not a reference manager. While it performs some of the functions of a reference manager, it's not going to give you a bibliography. It's not going to be able to generate citations for you in the same format that RefWorks or EndNote can do. It's not a database. You're not going to find new things in here. It's only going to contain what you put into it. It's not any kind of search engine. It is not a place where you search for studies or perform any analysis. So it's just where you put all your raw citations in, figure out which ones are the best ones, extract your data, and then move on. All right, so how do you access Covidence here? So we have an institutional subscription through the library for unlimited reviews. So there's as many as you need, we can give to you. Covidence is very nice because it does allow multi-institution collaborators to participate in the same review. So if you're working with somebody at a different university, you can add them to your review. You can be added to somebody else's review outside of our institution. It's very open to collaboration. To get that process started, the best way to do it is send an email to reference@lsuhsc.edu to request access. One of the librarians will see that and set you up with Covidence, and you will receive an invitation from Covidence to either join as an author or join a review. Our policy is if you are faculty, a resident, a graduate student, then you are going to be added as a member, which means that you can create additional reviews. For our students, you will be added as reviewers to a project. So the librarian will create the project, add you as a reviewer. You will have full access and privileges on that review to do everything you need to do. You can add other collaborators, but the students will just be participants in that one review. All right, so now I'm going to cover how to set up a review. All right, so what I'm going to do now is my slides are very detailed, and I believe Chandler has shared them in the chat so you can follow along, but I'm actually going to jump into Covidence and go through all of my content. The slides are here more for reference and to review later. All right, so when you come into Covidence, you will, after you log in, you'll see, a list of your current reviews. So I'm going to walk through what it looks like to set up a new review. All right, so there's a few questions that you'll have to fill out to get started. It'll ask if you're creating a Cochrane review, which if you are, go ahead. If not, you're not. You'll have to name your review, and it does kind of require you to do this. It doesn't have to be the full title. It can be anything you want. Very informal. You can certainly change this later. Then you will have to select your review type. And this is kind of important because it does inform some of the defaults and the templates that you will be matched with in your review. So I'll say I'm doing a systematic review. My question type is a therapy. And there's information here to learn more if you're not quite sure which one you want to pick. And then your area of research, typically for our work, it's going to be in medical and health sciences. And again, this informs some of the tools that you see later on, all changeable, but that's what you're setting up in this page. There are automation options. I'm going to talk about those later in settings. So I'm going to skip over that for now. And then the purpose of this review, this are more, I believe, for just Covidence and statistics. But if you know for sure this is just a practice, you can click on that. And then the purpose of your review for our people, I generally say it's an academic research project that's conducted as part of your academic role. If something else is more applicable, feel free to click on that. And then I have an account, and then choose whichever account. You should probably just have one. And then you would create your review. So I'm going to cancel out of that because I don't actually want to create that review. Okay, so once you're in a review, this is the dashboard that you'll see. So this is one that Ro and I are going to use today for our presentation. So I'm going to talk about the settings. He's going to walk through all these steps. I'm covering this. Okay. So in settings, you can see right here, you can re-answer all those questions if you got them wrong or want to change something. This is where you would do that. Okay, now we talk about automation. Covidence has been very cautious and limited with its rollout of AI automation. They have looked into it. They've explored it. If it doesn't meet at least 97% criteria or passing, it's not going to use it. So just that's their philosophy and that's their approach. The only things that you could possibly do with automation is it will tag RCTs are randomized controlled trials. If you select this, it would automatically tag those or it would remove them. However, everything has human oversight. So it's not going to automatically pass through without you seeing it. You will still have to confirm. It will just sort of speed the process up for you a little bit. And And then the only tool that they offer in extraction is on one of the templates, extraction one. Rowan will talk a little bit more about the different templates, but even that is very limited, and it will only pull out information like the author's name, address, institutional affiliation, their email, sponsorship source, stuff that they get out of the top of the article. Again, very limited and all with human oversight. There's no automation on any other parts of the extraction process. Okay, now I think we already covered those questions. Then scrolling down here, there's some new stuff you can fill in. I do encourage you to put some information about your search. The people that I work with, when I send them the PubMed search, it will always have the search strategy attached. So you could put that in here just so you have it for your records. It's not required, but a good idea. So you remember what you searched when you go back to do your publication and your write-up, you remember what was searched. Review settings, the default is going to be for 2 reviewers to screen at every step. This can be changed to 1, and those are the only options. If you're going to do any kind of publication, you're going to need 2 reviewers for a project. Many publications will not accept a systematic review without at least that level of rigor. So those are all set to 2 by default. Extraction 1 is good if you are doing a very structured type of study. You're doing intervention studies, very quantitative. Extraction 2 is what we use for scoping reviews, literature reviews, and more qualitative. So most of the people I work with, I'm using Extraction 2. Sometimes it's 1 if it's very structured data. This, again, will inform a template later on. It's changeable, but try to make your best guess at this point. All right, reviewers, here is where if you are a student and you need to add additional reviewers, this is where you would do it. You would just invite them. All you need is their email address, and it can be from any institution. All right, team settings. This allows you, sometimes it's a little slow to load. This allows you to see the progress everybody on the team has made in different steps of the process. So if you're on a team and you want everybody to do 20% of the screening, this is the dashboard that's going to show you how much everybody has done at each step. Just waiting for it to load. There we go. So it'll show you for the title and abstract screening, how many each person has done, for full text, how many each person has done, and then same thing for extraction. So it just helps you kind of keep track just to make, if somebody's supposed to be doing their part, you can see if they've started yet. All right, now eligibility criteria. This is where it's really recommended that you spend some time setting this up because it will make your process much better later on. So this is optional. You don't have to fill this out, but it is strongly recommended. So what you're doing on this page is, this is where you're going to remind yourself and your team of the criteria for including or excluding an article. So if you have a PICO question, this is a great place to put it in. We're looking for adults, so we're going to exclude children. Whatever intervention you're looking for, if there's a comparator, if there's a particular outcome that you're seeking, a certain study characteristic, or if there's any other criteria, this is not going to do anything with the articles in Covidence. It's just to get everybody on the same page. It would be able to display while you're screening. So again, just to remind yourself, keep everybody on the same page. Another feature, and this is separate, it feels a little bit duplicative, but it's also a nice feature. Covidence will add highlights to spot words and phrases while you're screening by highlighting them in either green or red. So if there is a phrase, I'm looking for adults, I'm looking for children. If it sees that word in the abstract, it will highlight it with green, which draws my eye to it, which makes it go a lot faster when I'm screening. If there's things that I see that I'm excluding, maybe mouse, maybe if I see a mouse study, I know I'm not going to include it. I can add that here. Maybe I want to include human. So these are just words that you're going to be looking for that will help you screen a little bit faster. The other thing you can do here is the full text exclusion reasons. When you're screening in title and abstract mode, you do not have to give a reason. You just excluded, it disappears. But when you get to the full text, you have to give a reason of why you did not include it. So it comes with some defaults. There's a wrong indication, wrong intervention, wrong outcome. You can add some more. We've added adult population, pediatric population, whatever reason you have to exclude. It is going to be required that whoever excludes uses the exact same reason, including misspellings. So it's best to have a nice list to draw from. So try to make this as comprehensive as possible. Feel free to edit as you go. So everybody uses the same. Otherwise, you'll have to resolve a conflict later on down the road. So again, this really is a good place to organize your thoughts. Another one of our recommended practices is to write a protocol and submit it before starting your review, because that's another opportunity to walk through the entire process with your team and fully understand what you're looking for, what you're not looking for. All right, then finally, there's study tags. This is, again, just an optional feature that can be helpful in organizing your citations. It comes with a few that you can't get rid of: ongoing study, awaiting classification. Those are defaults, and those will always be there. I've added background information. Sometimes when you're screening articles, you'll say, ooh, I'm not going to include this. It doesn't meet my criteria, but I want to tag it as background information so I know to go back and save it so I can, maybe it's a good review article, so I can find it later when I need to write up my article for publication. Or this one needs a translation. Let me tag it, and then you can pull all those at the end. So these are just kind of nice things to have ready to go so you can mark up articles as you go along and not get bogged down. Okay, so that's all I'm going to talk about. Rowan is going to take over now and walk through the actual steps of using Covidence for a systematic review. Go back to the slide.
Oh, yeah. No, that's not what I meant to do. Okay. There. Okay, let's get started. So yeah, I'm going to basically take the same process as Sharon, where for most of this, I will be demonstrating these steps in Covidence. But again, the slides are available for, review and all of that. The first step is going to be to import your references, though, because, of course, presumably at this point, you've solidified your question, you've submitted your protocol, you've worked with a librarian, you've got good searches for a good selection of databases, and you are ready to start exporting those results from those databases and bring them into Covidence. There's no limit to number that can be imported, but you do have to limit yourself to 15,000 references per batch. And you can do as many batches as you need. Hopefully you don't need too many batches of 15,000 references, or if you do, hopefully you have a really large review team. You can import multiple different formats into Covidence. You've got the EndNote XML format, the PubMed format, and the RIS format. Most databases will allow you to export in RIS format. PubMed is a little bit of an outlier there, so I will be demonstrating that one specifically. And then EndNote XML, if you ever run into something that for some reason doesn't give you an RIS format, as long as you can export it into something that EndNote will recognize, then you can always move it to EndNote and then export it from EndNote as EndNote XML. PubMed, again, has a slightly different process, so we're just going to jump over PubMed and walk our way through that one. No. Okay, so I've got a random search that I just threw in there. We will not be exporting and importing all of these results because it can take a little bit of time to chew through the import process for a very large result set. But in PubMed, instead of choosing send to, like normally I would say send to Citation Manager, for importing to Covidence, it only will accept the PubMed format from PubMed. If you do export to Citation Manager or send to Citation Manager, it's going to give you an InBib file. We want a PubMed file. So we can go to Save. And we're just going to do all the results on this page, whatever, I think 10 per page. And we want to make sure to go to format and choose PubMed as the format, and then create the file. And then that's just going to download that file there. So basically, kind of your pretty similar to your normal export process. But then once you are ready to import them, you go to your review, you've got import references. Just click on import. We're going to import to screen, and then we'll choose our source. I've actually got an export from earlier that's an RIS file that I did from Embase. I do highly recommend selecting your source, even though it's optional. This way, it will fill in that source and the number of results from each source that you imported into your Prisma flowchart. So you'll have that level of documentation, which is always nice. And that way you don't have to keep track elsewhere that you got 638 things from CINAHL and 745 from PubMed, etc. So just basically choose your file, go to your downloads. Hopefully it's always tricky if you've done a bunch at once and they'll have generic names like records or something. And then click import. All right, and so that didn't take us very long. If you click on the little down arrow by import, though, you can see your whole history of what you imported and what dates and things like that. Actually, if you go into view details, you do also have the option if you need to undo an import. If you're like, oh, that was the file for a completely different research project, you can undo those imports and try it again, things like that. And you can edit the source as well. So if you did accidentally click the wrong thing in that drop down, you can change it. And just real quick to show you, Prisma here, if you click show sources on your import thing, it might be slow because I just did one. Yeah, we'll talk more about Prisma when we talk about outputs later. Okay. So one of the things I really like about this dashboard, though, is that it does really walk you through the process chronologically. You know, import is your first step. Your second step, you've got your title and abstract screening. So as Sharon mentioned, you'll have hopefully done all of your setup, all of your highlighting, all of your inclusion and exclusion criteria. You can see we've already done some. We have done, I don't know, we've done about 20, we've touched about 20 articles, but 5 we're still waiting for a second reviewer on. We've got a few conflicts, and we've got 2,501 articles left to screen. So we'll just go ahead and continue here just so you can see the general screening page. If you don't like those highlights for some reason, you have the option to toggle those off and on if you find them distracting. You also have the ability to toggle the abstracts off and on. I usually leave them on, but sometimes it's nice to turn them off just to be able to see more things on your screen. If the abstract was not available to be imported to Covidence or there's not an abstract, then you won't see it. Show criteria here. This is where that adding your inclusion and exclusion criteria is nice. Go away. That just keeps it at the top of that screen, and it'll, kind of freeze it as you scroll, so you can kind of come back to it as you're looking at your titles and abstract. It is really helpful to have that cue there. I'm going to hide it for right now, though. You do also have other sorting options too. Sometimes every now and then I will resort mine just for, I don't know, variety. And you can even filter as well by tags that, maybe you've added, things like that. But basically, as you go through, you read the title, you read the abstract, you decide whether it matches your criteria, choose an option. Of course, we highly recommend that you have conversations with your team at multiple steps along the way to make sure you're on the same page as far as how you understand the difference between a yes and a maybe, perhaps, because items will be marked as conflict even if it's one yes and one maybe. It's not just yes versus no. So maybe can be kind of a little bit of a sticky one sometimes. Scrolling down, though, again, you can see our highlights here. if you have libkey Nomad installed, or it's a browser extension that connects you to the full text PDF if it is available in our LSU HSC collection. So that will give you those little things. You don't really need to look at the full text at the title and abstract screening page, but you will notice those links are available there. In addition to your yes, no, maybe options, you do have some other little functions down here. You can add notes if you want to make a more extensive note than just like tagging it. You can also see history. Sometimes things may get, at this point, it'll just be when it was imported. But sometimes you will have a need to, maybe you'll advance something to the full text screening stage and then need to move it back. If that happens, you'll see that in history. And then there is, just like most citation managers, Covidence will automatically detect and remove duplicates, but it will occasionally miss them. So if you happen to find a duplicate that it is missed, you can just remove it as a duplicate without having to make a selection as far as its inclusion or exclusion, and then it'll add it to that section in your Prisma chart. So that's basically title and abstract screening. Anything that you do have conflicts on will appear under this option to resolve conflicts. And then again, it'll show you which reviewer voted. It won't show you which way they voted, which is always a little awkward if you're like, I can't remember what I said or why I said it, because sometimes if you're screening a lot, that may be the situation you're in. But then you'll have your final decision. You have basically kind of two options as far as how you reach that final decision. Someone on your review team or a couple of people on your review team can be appointed the, specific arbiters of that decision and can go in and resolve those conflicts on their own. Or you can have kind of a group consensus process where you meet and you go through the conflicts and you make a final decision and change them. Whatever that process is should be set you should decide on that in advance, with your team. And that should also be documented in your Prisma, not your Prisma, your protocol, which you will, of course, have filed and all of that. So basically, if we know we want to do this one, we'll say our final decision is yes. I'm kind of like, what happens if you make the final decision maybe? It puts it to, yeah, does it push it to full text? Yeah. So basically maybe equals yes, because all your yeses are actually maybes anyway. So we'll say this one's a no. Maybe. Okay. And then anything that's awaiting another reviewer will be here. So if you want to kind of prioritize those, if these are ones that I've done, so I have the option to change my vote if I want. Oh, I don't have any that, well, these are ones Sharon did actually. And then you have your irrelevant references, which are the ones that everyone has agreed are not to be included. But if you say you have a conversation as you start screening and you realize that people are on very different pages and you're like, oh man, now there's some stuff that we all said to exclude that we need to look at again, you can move things back to screening, things like that. Right. They're still available for you to kind of, almost all decisions are revocable here. So anyway, to go back, we can now move to our full text review. We'll pretend that we've done more than we've done. Again, you've got your overview of the team progress. You've got your studies that are available to screen. We've only done one so far, but we've got 11 others that are ready to view. You'll notice at this point, you have the option to upload full text. And this is something that can be very helpful to do, especially if you've got reviewers from different institutions. You may not have the same institutional subscription, so full text is available to one of you, might not be available to everyone. So it can be really helpful to do that so people don't have to go hunting the full text every time they do it. Again, if it's something that we have access to and you've installed Adobe, thank you, libkey Nomad, it'll give you that article link. I don't have an example. I don't have an example on this screen. I have one on the extraction screen. If it's something that Covidence can identify as open access, it'll automatically pull that full text in for you, which is nice. But basically, you can review your full text, download your PDF, and then you've only got your two final options here of your final include or exclude. As Sharon mentioned, if you choose exclude, you will have to choose the reason for excluding the study. We've got whatever you've set up in advance. And then you can always edit that list by adding, I don't know, I'll say translation unavailable or something. I don't know what. Or we'll say full text not available. If no one's got it anymore or whatever, we'll add that. And again, anything that slight variations will be treated as disagreements or conflicts to be managed. So it's better to have everyone on the same page about, your selections there and not have people just kind of going rogue and entering their custom reasons every time they exclude something. We'll say this is, I don't know, wrong outcomes and then confirm. And then it'll be put in the pile of probably awaiting another reviewer, presumably. Yep. And then again, your excluded references will be right here. Resolve conflicts will work basically the same way where you'll have a list. Now, we have completed full text review of all of one study. So that has been moved to the extraction stage. I'm not going to go in depth about extraction or quality assessment. That would be a whole nother session, which Sharon and I might do at some point. We'll do advanced Covidence. But just briefly, I will show you kind of what that step looks like. So we've got the one, we've got team progress again. If we click continue, this will bring us to our extraction stage. And we have a data extraction template. I've already created a template and published it for this. If I hadn't, it would say create data extraction template. I haven't done anything for quality assessment, so it'll give me the option to create my assessment template. Your template is editable. If you just click into that, you can change it. But we'll say begin extraction. And if the full text, again, this is another reason that it's really helpful to go ahead and upload that full text. If you've got it, it will display it here on the same screen. So you've got kind of this panel with your data extraction template on one side, and you can kind of read the article and pull stuff right over. This is kind of just the default template. All of this is customizable according to the needs of what type of data you want to extract. Basically, once two people have completed extraction, once I've done it, I'll say send for consensus. Once someone else has also done their step, it'll be sent for consensus. And then again, you'll have kind of a conflict resolution stage where everyone has to agree on what was done. And then quality assessment, basically the same process, just with a different set of questions. The default template for that is based on the Cochrane risk of bias tool. But you can also fully customize that if you have another risk of bias tool or quality assessment template that you want to use. You can basically customize it to make it match that one. Okay, so now, once you have done all your steps, you've reviewed, extracted, you are ready to move into your data analysis. You're ready to start getting stuff out of Covidence and bring it into whatever other tool you're using. We have several different things we can export. Again, as mentioned, your Prisma flowchart, which hopefully will load faster now that I have let it think about my new imports for a little bit longer. Or not. There, now it's gone. Okay. So it'll break down your imports by source. It'll give you all of your steps. It's lovely. It's delightful. We love it. You can download that as docx. And there's other tips on exporting and interpreting your Prisma if you need them. And then under export, you have your additional export options. You can export references in a variety of sets. Just for various screening stages. You can export sets of just the things that have been excluded, included, full text review, etc. You also have your inter-rater reliability documentation. This will be a CSV, which is basically kind of all of your reviewers and breaks down some statistics about, it doesn't go super granular for each specific article, but sort of this person gave this many includes, this many excludes, this person, your statistics by team. which is, I think some things may require you to share that, others may not, but it is also kind of a good check for if someone is kind of way off in left field, if most people have sort of one rating and then one person is like, I excluded, 99.999% of everything I reviewed. That may be kind of a red flag that you've got someone who's on a different page than everyone else. And you can do that for both your screening steps. And then other extraction, similar to kind of your references, you have kind of a few different ways you can slice or dice. And this is, again, going to be a CSV that you can import into Excel or whatever other statistical sort of thing you want to do. You can do, data extraction and quality assessment. You can do the consensus only, or you could do the consensus and individual data, et cetera, et cetera. So those are basically your extraction, your export, I should say, options. And that is it for me. I will turn it back over to Sharon to wrap up.
All right. Okay, so back to our slides. All right, so again, the slides are available with all more details with everything we talked about. So just some best practices and some tips. So we do recommend using a protocol. You can register a systematic review protocol with Prospero. You can do a scoping review with OSF. And it's just a really good process because it timestamps your review. So you can sort of mark your point in time and say, this is when I initiated this review. It gives you an actual record. So that you can claim ownership at a certain time point. But it's also really helpful just for forcing the team to be thorough and walk through the entire process before you get too far down the road. We do recommend taking time to use all those settings that I showed in the settings tab. It really, again, will streamline the process down the road. We recommend conducting a pilot review to test your screening criteria and your data extraction template. Especially the data extraction, it is an iterative process. There will be back and forth, a lot of stops and starts as you start to actually see articles and realize that the data you thought you were going to be able to retrieve is presented in different ways in the literature. So a good rule of thumb is in a pilot, maybe take 10% of your extraction or of your full set and do some extraction on it. And then you will have to go back to the beginning, essentially start another review and restart the process. So don't go all the way down the road with all the screenings before you get to there. But you will be able to use that template then on your next review. It is recommended that you check in early and often with your team during these steps. The librarians are working on a project and we're meeting about every 2 weeks to touch base and make sure that we're on the same page to keep everything moving along and keep everybody focused on the same goals. And then our last tip, specifically with Covidence, is to install the LibKey Nomad browser extension that Rowan showed. There's a link to our page about how to access it and connect with our institutional collection. It just really is going to make that full text phase a lot easier because you'll be able to just quickly locate and download those full text articles. And then Covidence has wonderful resources on their webpage. Their knowledge base is phenomenal and well organized. There's both videos and explanations for every step along the way. You can browse it by your topic, or you can search for a specific thing like PubMed. I never remember, now I've seen it enough with watching Rowan, how to do the PubMed, but I always remember it's a little bit different. What is that process? So you can just go in there, type in PubMed, and it'll take you right to that page. They also offer many ebooks, and they're continuing to come out with more. These are great. I send them to people who are new to either the review process or to Covidence. They're very easy to understand, good background information if you're interested in learning more about these different processes. All right, and that's all we have. If we'll have time for any questions or comments. And then this is our final slide to connect with us. You can fill out a short survey about today's presentation. You can follow us on Instagram to learn more about other classes and also sign up for the library emails to learn more about what we're up to. Are there any questions? Can you show an example quality assessment template? And what do you choose if you are doing a literature review, not a scoping? Okay, great. Let's jump back into Covidence. Okay, if you are doing, I can answer the first question. If you're doing just a literature review under settings, that is a type that you can choose right here. You would choose literature review. And then when you do your extraction, you would choose number 2 for either a scoping, a literature, a qualitative review. So that's what you would use for those settings. I'll let Rowan answer the question about.
Okay. We haven't created a quality assessment template. Really, the full answer would be, that's probably a whole nother session. But if you go to create quality assessment template, you can kind of see this is the preview template. This is probably based, I believe that even in extraction 2 is based on Cochrane's ROB, risk of bias. So basically you've got kind of your options for, blinding, high, low, unsure, like, the article doesn't really talk about blinding. So I don't know, that sort of thing. And then you can customize this though, but that is basically kind of how it works. Let's see, I'll just say, I'll say publish the default template and then, oh yeah, because I haven't finished oh, there it is. Yeah, ha 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 ha. Okay, so here you go, is basically kind of how it appears. So very similar to the data extraction, just with a different set of questions to answer. Yeah, with that side-by-side view. All right, does that help? Okay, any other questions?